Mental health has become a big topic in the midst of COVID. Today, I talk one-on-one with someone who deals with mental health issues every day, Judge Stephanie Ganaway-Pasley, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Judge Stephanie Ganaway-Pasley, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, you're very welcome. Obviously, you are Judge Stephanie Ganaway-Pasley, and obviously you are also a qualified civil mediator. You've served on a bench as a summary court judge for over a decade. Now you are the Chief Operating Officer of Pasley & Associates, providing business and mediation services to private and public sectors. With your company, you have over 8 years of experience addressing leadership skills, customer service, and mental health. And also, these days, you are also a college professor specializing in psychology, and also you are a PhD candidate. Let me ask you, when it comes to mental health, Judge, what is mental health in your mind?
Well, according to the DSM or 5th edition, although no definition can capture all aspects of all disorders in the range contained in the DSM-5, however, the mental health is described as or defined as a mental disorder is a syndrome characterized by clinically significant disturbances in an individual's cognition, the way a person thinks, emotion regulation, or behavior that reflects a dysfunction in the psychological, biological, or developmental processes underlining mental functioning. Mental disorders are usually associated with significant distress or disability in social, occupational, or other important activities. However, I think it's also important to mention that an expectable or culturally approved response to a common stressor or loss such as the death of a loved one or the loss of a job, whereas the loss of a job can contribute to mental illness according to DSM-5, but looking at it culturally, the loss such as the death of a loved one is not a mental disorder. Social deviant behavior, political, religious, or sexual, and conflicts that are primarily between the individual and society are not mental disorders unless the deviance or conflict result from a dysfunction in the behavior, as I stated, previously stated. So different cultures and communities exhibit or explain symptoms in various ways. And because of this, it's important for clinicians to be aware of relevant contextual information stemming from a person or client or patient's culture, race, ethnicity, religion, or geographical origin. For an example, one was given uncontrollable crying and headaches are symptoms of panic attacks in some cultures, while difficulty breathing may be the primary symptom in other cultures. So understanding such distinctions will help clinicians more accurately diagnose problems as well as more effectively treat them. Where I am a psych professor and I teach about psychological disorders and different types of medications that are used, it's always important that if someone feels that they're going through some challenges that they cannot control emotionally, that they always seek professional help.
What are those social deviant behaviors that are really common today?
Well, again, I think when it comes down to social deviant behavior, where there are conflicts between the individual and society, someone might be going through a divorce and remove themselves from society, and at home they might be doing something that they don't want other people to know about. Might be binge eating. It could be a lot of different types of behaviors that causes them to have a mental stressor, to be mentally stressed.
Yes. What do you do
let me say this. Everyone feels blue sometimes, a romantic breakup, the death of a loved one, or personal failure that can cast a dark cloud for life. But sometimes, however, a person might feel unhappy and not know why they are unhappy, which could be considered a depressive disorder. If you just feeling down all the time and you don't know why you feel that particular way.
And what are those other, obviously disorders that you have heard of this past year, particularly with COVID?
I've heard of, there's an increasing number of people suffering from stress and increase in awareness level of disease state and clinical needs are factors that drive the market. There's poor efficacy and safety profiles, repeated drug failures and that I've read about in clinical trials. However, depression affects more than 14 to 15 million adults in the United States. And for those struggling with depression, the holiday season can be anything but the most wonderful time of the year for a lot of people. In fact, for most people with depression and mental health disorders, the holidays can be one of the most difficult, frustrating, and dreadful times of the year. Even people who don't struggle with clinical depression can find the holidays to be extremely depressing and stressful. So some of the reasons for this could include the fact that there's hectic nature for preparing a home for family members and guests that are going to be visiting. There might be endless invitations to social events and social gatherings because of that people are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable going out and being among other people. The fact that you have gift shopping might be a stressor, having to decide what to buy, when to go, when to not be in a crowd, big meal making, and everything in between can be stressors. Even seeing others more cheerful than you are and more merrier than usual can make it extra difficult for those who might be struggling with depression.
Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, Judge, do you know what percentage of adults in the Tri-County area experience mental health or mental illness, I should say?
I don't have stats on how many people in the Tri-County experience mental health or stressors prior to COVID, but I'm comfortable saying that it certainly has increased, whatever that number was.
Has suicidal ideation increased among adults, do you think, since the beginning of this pandemic?
Definitely. I would definitely say suicide has increased since the pandemic.
Wow. And do you know what percentage of the youth in this area are actually living with major depression?
I don't have any statistics on how many youths that are actually living with depression in Charleston County. I just simply know that, as I stated, when we talk about depression among adults, that there was research to support, and this research is a few years old, so that there are 14 to 15 million adults in the United States that are suffering with depression.
And
I would love to come back and talk to you about the statistics in Charleston County, but currently I don't have that information in front of me.
And what should people do if they support someone who is not getting the help that they need?
I think people should encourage folks who are suffering with mental health challenges and depression to seek professional counseling. I know that self-care is a coping tool. We can pay special attention to our eating, sleeping, and just our downtime. We all skip on a few hours of sleep on then, just before a relaxing weekend. But we have to think about if that weekend will include the stress of traveling, visiting, or other activities out of our normal routine.
Yes, ma'am.
We should not forget to factor in downtime as well. Planning every hour of our time off can seem like a great idea until you realize there is no time left to unwind.
That's right.
So we want to have relaxation, want to have some fun, what we consider fun, not perfection. So, we need to resist the urge to do everything you can to make the season perfect for everyone. Just have as much fun and relaxation as you can, and don't expect it to be a perfect outcome. We also have to anticipate stress. We got to plan ahead of time what our strategy will be when time gets stressful. We got to see, is it possible to make a walk outside for 15 minutes when a family gathering gets stressful? Or how about a trip to our favorite store if our schedule just simply seems to get down? So I think coping with stress during the holidays help keeps expectations manageable. We need to try to set realistic goals for ourselves,
And
pace ourselves.
pace ourselves, yeah. And going back to mental health, Judge, how can you prevent mental health problems?
I don't know if you can prevent mental health problems because, again, we all have, we all get blue sometimes, but when tragedies strike in our life, and depends on our, how we cope with those strategies. For instance, I'll give a personal example. I have a sibling that passed away in June. He was my only sibling, and he was the my parents' only son. It was just two of us. Well, actually, there was three, but my mother had a stillbirth at the beginning of, when they first started the family, and then so she went through those challenges of dealing with that, and then my brother was born, and in June he passed away. So my parents, where I lost one, brother that I knew, and I knew the history of the stillborn that my mother had suffered with. But my mother's father lost two children, realistically speaking, and because they knew both. She gave birth to each children, and now two of her children have passed away. They're in their 80s, and they have challenges dealing with the loss of the last son because he was in his 60s when he passed away. He was sick for a few years. So they struggle with just coping every day. And I've told them, I said, perhaps you ought to seek some counseling if you feel that you're not able to function. But they're learning their own coping skills. They say, we don't feel like we need to seek counseling, but we're just going to keep ourselves busy. So at this point, they seem to be managing fairly well. They still get up and do activities and move around. And they say when they feel like they need to talk about the loss of their son together, that's what they do. They are Christians in their faith, so they pray a lot about the situation, and they don't seem to be depressed over it. They're able to manage to not depressed to the degree to where they can't manage it. Obviously, they're suffering with having to go through this first Thanksgiving without him. Now they're preparing to go through their first Christmas without him, and I as well. But now I looking at my parents who are elderly people and keeping them focused, and as well as myself and keeping myself focused. So, if you're able to cope with these challenges, then if your coping strategy works, use your coping strategy. But if you find that even with your coping strategies, you're still feeling very depressed and you still feel like you need something in addition to what you're doing, it's always best to seek professional counseling or professional help to help guide through. And I often tell people, Quintin, when we have issues with our heart, we go to a cardiologist. We have issues with our bones, we might go to an orthopedic specialist. It's okay to go to a psychiatrist if we're having issues with our brain. If we're having issues coping, it's okay to go to a psychologist.
And my condolences to you and your family as well. Let me
Thank
ask you.
you.
Oh, you're very welcome. You talk about obviously your parents just keep busy. They just right now, they just don't want to get any psychological help on that issue. But can people get over mental illness without medication?
Well, I think that once a clinician, that's a question that that would be discussed between a clinician and a client. I think it depends on what type of diagnosis one has been diagnosed with. It depends on how severe it has affected someone psychologically, whether or not that person is able to cope. But and I have not come across any studies that have stated that one cannot get over some challenges without medication psychologically.
Can people stabilize a mental illness simply with medication alone?
That's a good question. I want to say that there are many times where people just need other folks to talk to and need to understand how to develop coping strategies that people can move through the process. And there are some people who need coping strategies and medication because sometimes our serotonin levels are off. And so sometimes medication can help us get refocused, can help our serotonin levels come back up. So I think that sometimes it depends on the challenge that the person is experiencing. And again, that would be something for that person and that person's clinician to discuss. But yes, I think there are times when people can have counseling and become okay with coping skills, and there are some people who need both.
And this might be a complicated question too, Judge, but why does someone with mental illness need to have a routine?
I think that routines are important because they help. I think that's part of a coping strategy. When people can know what to expect, I think people will learn how to leave the past in the past and look forward to the future because life does bring changes. Each season, and when I talk about seasons, sometimes it could be the 4 seasons or it could be the seasons in our life. But each season is different and can be enjoyed in its own way. So I think that coping skills allow people to not set themselves up and comparing today with the old days, the things that I used to be able to do that I just can't do anymore. That you have to learn how to accept what is.
Yes, indeed. And this is something I'm so excited to talk about because I'm probably going to do it later today, and if not today, definitely tomorrow when I do my long run. But does exercising help control mental illness just by itself?
I'm not sure if exercising help control mental illness just by itself. Again, it depends on what your challenges are. But I do know that exercising does help support and a lot of different challenges that we face in our lives. I am one who exercises every day, and I find that to be my downtime. It gives me an opportunity to relax, uh, organize my thoughts, make plans, even if I'm walking and thinking about what am I going to prepare for dinner. So I think that whenever people exercise, some people exercise for different reasons. Sometimes it's required. So, but exercising does help. And I
Absolutely.
think that's been proven, through research.
Yes, indeed. And this is a probably redundant question too, but what actually causes mental health problems?
Again, I think when we're not able to cope with challenges that we're faced with, can help contribute to mental health problems. Um, Depressive disorders are common. I read that in 2014, nearly 16 million people, American adults, had at least one major depressive disorder episode in within 12 months. So when we're not able to get over the fact that a loved one has passed away, or we're not able to get over the fact that we're out of a relationship that we wanted to continue, or we don't get over the fact that we've lost our jobs, or all these other challenges are coming because connected to your job could be your health insurance, how you're going to make your mortgage payment or your rent payment, how you're going to pay your car note, how you're going to continue to take care of your family, how you're going to continue to pay the light bill, how you're going to continue to pay the water bill. and you don't see any answers. You know, things just doesn't look like they're coming together, can obviously cause someone to become depressed.
So sad. Okay, why is it so hard to get medical coverage for mental health issues?
That's a good question. Um, and again, I don't have a lot of knowledge in that area. I haven't done the research in looking at why it's challenging to get help as far as insurance is concerned, treating someone with a mental health disorder.
And are there any ethnicities or racial groups that are more likely to receive, or I should say receive, but to have mental illnesses?
Well, depend on the research that you read will determine whether or not which ethnic group has more mental health disorders than others. Um, I've read some research where it stated that African Americans suffers more with mental health disorders, but it depends on the researcher and the research that's being conducted. There might be other researchers that might say another ethnic group has more challenges with mental health disorders than another.
And obviously, we talked about this at the beginning of the interview, but I wanted to, to give the viewers some sort of understanding about this. But let me ask you another basic question: is it all in a person's head when it comes to mental health?
When you say it's all in a person's head, you mean is this just simply what they think and not what is?
Right.
I think it's more than what a person thinks. I think it relies again on your behavior, your emotions, and how you think. Definitely plays a part in it. But how you think can affect your behavior, and your behavior and how you think can affect your emotions. So, and I think that when your behavior and your emotions and your behavior, your emotions, and your thoughts are intertwined and are challenging, and you just don't seem to be the person that you used to be to others, and perhaps even to yourself, perhaps it's time at that point to seek some professional counseling.
And how do you know? This obviously we probably don't know this, but how do you know if somebody's unwell?
When you say unwell, you mean how do you know if somebody's having a mental health challenge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And again, it depends on, who knows one better than family members and or friends that are around you. So if you notice a change in someone's behavior, if you know that there seem to be conflicts that are primarily between the individual and society, where they might not be mental health disorders unless they start having these behaviors where people start having these different thoughts about thinking that life is not worth living anymore. I don't have anything to live for. People start giving away items that are important to them, furniture, clothes. These might be this might be leading to a concern that this person might have some thoughts about ending their life. I think it's important that we focus on the behavior of the person, because you know how the person once acted. If someone starts drinking excessively, because this is a way that they cope with whatever challenges that they might be facing. If you find a person who is consistently crying about a situation that they just can't seem to get a grip on, perhaps the loss of a loved one, um, perhaps a loss of a relationship. These are behaviors where you can actually identify that has changed. It's sometimes people aggressively violent. Sometimes they don't seem they become extremely agitated. They just don't seem to be. They can control their feelings or their emotions or their behavior. This is a time where family need to step in and say, "There's a challenge here," and seeking help for this person, because there are treatment plans that are out there that can help people get refocused.
Yes, indeed. And Judge, what do you see as those social deviant behaviors that are on the rise that we need to watch out for next?
I think it's important to respect people and to treat people the way you want to be treated. And I know that sometimes gossiping, people making false accusations, as minor as that might seem to a lot of people. So what if someone gossips? So what if someone makes a false accusation? But it depends on who these false accusations are made to, can really cause a disturbance in someone's life. It could be in the church. It could be in a social event. And I think sometimes when people behavior are deviant, when they do things to others, they have no how can I say it? Um, it doesn't seem to affect them at all. They have no remorse. Um, People cause harm to others without any remorse. People lie on others without any remorse. I think this could lead to a behavior that should be focused on.
Judge Stephanie Ganaway-Pasley, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Enjoy being here.
Likewise.